Glad to be with all of you guys again. Excited to be covering medieval Europe. It's been really cool. Wait, why isn't this working? Let's see. Yep. Okay, we're good. I don't know. It's taking a while for my thing to pull up really quick. Sorry if that. It's about 20 seconds of kind of black video. I'm not for sure why it took so long to get connected to this live stream. Gonna see if anybody else gets in and joins the class before we get started. So while we're waiting, let's review what we've learned so far, what we covered last week. We covered 3 chapters, so it was kind of a lot of information. The chapters were a little bit shorter and they really work together, right? Sometimes we have chapters and the way it ends kind of leads into the next chapter. Well, these ones totally were connected. Oh, hey, how's it going? Glad to have you guys here. Glad that you guys are joining. Got Mason and Josh here. Glad to have you guys here. I was just talking about our previous few chapters that we read last week and what was covered, right? Glad you guys are doing good. So we learned about the manors or the estates, right? How there was kind of like the castle, the main hall, and then we had all of the peasants around the land that worked the land, the serfs, right? We're going to learn more about the serfs. We learned about castles and how they were built and how they were used as fortresses, the way they were used in warfare. And we learned about knights and how boys became knights, right? They became pages and then squires, and then they at some point were knighted by the Lord to become a knight. So we're going to jump into chapter 10 and learn more about the serfs, right? The peasants. So remember, you have your chapter vocabulary words, and make sure you guys are using the vocabulary from the book, okay? Some students have been just Googling the words and typing in what Google gives us. We want to use the words from the books. That will help us better understand what we're reading, okay? And then we have our big question. Can you put up the chat? Yep. Glad to have you here, Chloe. You guys like to see your own writing. Is that why you want me to put the chat up so you can see what you're saying? No, I'm just kidding. Probably makes it easier so you don't have to. You can probably put this full screen and see what other people are saying. Okay, so there it is. Let us get into chapter 10, okay? Glad to have you guys all here, and those that are watching the replay, I'm glad that you are taking the time to watch this. Hey Ella, glad to have you here. Those that, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Chloe. Okay, so let's get started with the lesson. I'm super pumped to have you guys all here. If you guys want to chat amongst each other, we can do that at the end of the lesson. But for right now, let's get focused, okay, and learn about the serf and his turf, right? And those that don't really get the saying, right? A surf and turf. You guys know what that is? If you were to go to maybe like Outback or Texas Roadhouse and get surf and turf, it means getting a land-based animal food like a steak, and then, sorry, turf is, yeah, land-based animal food like a steak, and then surf would be like some kind of fish, like, you know, surfing the water, the waves, okay? So a surf and his turf. That's why it's kind of funny. Okay, so let's get focused and let's call attention to the big question, okay? All right, and the big question says, what does the author say that serfs lived, why does the author say that serfs lived close to the land? What does that mean? Live close to the land, right? I mean, we all live close to the land, right? I mean, when I walk outside my door, I'm close to the land. So why does the author say the serfs live close to the land? That's a little bit more critical thinking. So as we read, let's look for answers to that question. So during this chapter, you'll be able to explain the place of serfs in the social structure of the Middle Ages, right? Within the feudal system. We learned that in chapter 6. And we'll be able to describe the life of a serf. And then, as always, understanding the meaning of the core vocabulary words for the chapter. If anything is not making sense, please type it in the chat. If you have questions, type in the chat. If something is cool, you can express how it's cool. That's totally welcomed. But just keep all comments and questions focused on what we're reading, all right? I like the interaction, so let's just keep it all focused on the chapter. So chapter 10, A Serf and His Turf. Make sure you're following along with me. This should be a pretty short chapter, okay, guys? So just about 15 minutes, a short lesson. So I think we can all stay focused for 15 minutes. So let's do it. The medieval majority. Most people in medieval Europe were not lords, ladies, and knights. They were peasants or common people. And there is our first vocabulary word. So if we look down on the left side, and let's learn what a peasant is. A person of low social rank, usually a farmer or unskilled worker. So the majority of people weren't the lords and the knights. The majority of people were the serfs or the peasants. Just like in school, not that you guys are peasants or serfs, but in school, the majority of the people at the school is actually the students, not the teachers and the administration, right? It's you, the students. That's the most people. So that's kind of visually kind of helping you understand what's going on. There's very few administration or knights and lords, but a lot of, students or the peasants and the serfs. Most peasants were serfs who lived on the manor estates and worked for the lord. Some peasants, though, chose to work freely and not serve a lord. Serfs were very much a part of a manor estate. In fact, if a manor estate was taken over by a new lord, the serfs had to remain there to serve the new lord. If you're thinking that being a serf sounds something like being an enslaved person, you're right. Okay, so if we scroll down and look at this picture, so the serfs worked the land on a manor estate. So if we scroll up really quick, because I know it's been about a week since we covered this, let's go back up to the manor estate, right? So this is it right here. The lord or the knight, the person that owned the manor estate, lived in the manor house. And then you have the serfs that lived in these little houses. You had the church where they would celebrate together. And you'd have other places of work like the mill, right, where they'd make bread and they'd work the land. So there's a little picture of that, okay? So sadly, the practice of slavery had existed for thousands of years in different parts of the world. However, the idea of serfdom happened slowly over time as the culture and development of medieval Europe took place. There was, as always, a need for large numbers of workers. However, as more and more people became Christian, the church became opposed to enslaving Christians. As a result, many people who had been enslaved were freed. These men were known as freedmen. Unfortunately, freedmen were not always able to make much use of their freedom. Since they had been enslaved all their lives, they were generally poor. Even if they could buy land, they probably would not have been able to protect themselves against warring tribes and powerful lords. So remember, warring, people that are fighting amongst each other. Therefore, around the 900s, many freedmen began to trade freedom for security by placing themselves under the protection of a feudal lord. This is how many freedmen became serfs. Sorry, Chloe, I don't have the core vocabulary up. I've been doing a lot more recorded lessons, and so I haven't needed to update it, and that is just on me. It's probably going to be like that. I'm trying to get more free time for me to help individuals with different subjects, and so the live lessons, yeah. So thanks for trying that. That was really awesome. I'm glad you did that. But here is our next vocabulary word. Security. So security is safety, freedom from danger. So we have these people that were enslaved. More people became Christians, and they realized that enslaving people wasn't the Christian thing to do, and so they freed them. But because these people were freed and or were enslaved for so long, they didn't have maybe a lot of skills to be, worthwhile, to make a lot of money. They were basically poor because they were slaved. And so they decided to trade their freedom for security, right? And we're going to learn a little bit more about that. They wanted the security of a home, places to eat, maybe work. Like they wanted to work, but they wanted, to be safe, protected, have a place to live, and things to eat. And so they're trading their freedom for security. It's important to note that medieval serfs had some rights that many enslaved people do not. They could not be sold apart from the land, and they had the right to keep what was left over after paying whatever they owed to the Lord. In addition, serfs could pass property on to their children. And so what they owed to the Lord was basically like taxes. They worked in the field, they worked in the mills, they, got milk, food, bread, they made things, and they owed a certain portion of that to the Lord, and they could keep the rest. Unlike a slave who doesn't get to keep basically anything besides their life and probably their clothes. The life of a serf. There weren't many luxuries for serfs in the Middle Ages. Generally, they led a hard life. Lords were supposed to protect their serfs, but if a lord treated a serf unfairly, there was little a serf could do about it. Serfs had to work extremely hard, and they kept only a small amount of what they grew or made. Hey Scotland, glad to have you here. So by around the year 1000, wood was hard to come by in parts of Europe. The house of a serf typically had simple wood frame with a mixture of mud and straw spread in between the wooden beams as walls. The roof of the house was made of straw, and the floor was dirt and weather. The floor turned to mud. That would not be very fun to live in, huh? That would be rough. But I think, some people still these days, live in some harsh conditions. Yeah. Serfs slept on the floor, perhaps with a layer of straw to provide a little bit of cushioning and warmth. They lived with their animals, chickens, sheep, and pigs. There was no fireplace, just a hearth in the middle of the floor with smoke drifting up through a hole in the roof. So a hearth is the bottom of a fireplace. So I have to go. I have a meeting with my math teacher. Have a good day. Yeah, thanks for coming in, Mason. Good luck with your math. So serfs built the few pieces of furniture they possessed, sewed their own clothes, and grew or raised their own food. In fact, serfs made most everything they needed. Serfs lived close to the land, and I hope you're paying attention. This will help you with your big question. They spent most of their days working for the lord of the manor, plowing his fields, planting his seeds, harvesting his crops, and stomping grapes to make his wine. Women were often in charge of small livestock. And there's our next vocabulary word, which is the animals kept on the farm. Continue to read. They would shear the master's sheep, spin the wool into yarn, and weave it into cloth. Women also had the job of tending the family vegetable garden and caring for the children. So women took care of the livestock, and they also took care of the garden. While the servants prepared food and goods for the master, they had very little for themselves. They lived mostly on bread, vegetables, and ale or beer. Interestingly, historians have noted that women's diets seemed to improve after about the year 1000. This helped them live longer and have more children, contributing to the population boom of the High Middle Ages. If serfs got sick, they depended on village healers who used local herbs to treat illness. So you could probably guess a healer is a person who cures the sick. Lords might have a professional physician. Though his cures were probably not any more advanced. So even though the Lord might have a professional physician, he, as it says, probably wasn't much more advanced than the healers. Of course, not all lords were cruel and heartless. Many realized that if their serfs were going to work hard, they had to be reasonably healthy. Yeah, it is kind of seems unfair, right? But that was the way of the day, and that's kind of why we evolved. That's why things are different now, because we realize that it wasn't fair, and we want everybody to have an equal opportunity to make something of themselves. We all start from different, paths of lives, but we all have the opportunity to make something, and that's why it's changed. That's why it's different today than it was back then. All right, so let's learn about the holidays. And this is it. This is our last section, all right? So holidays, while all peasants, serfs, or freedmen faced many difficulties, they were still some good times in their hard lives. Just as we enjoy holidays today, people also enjoyed them in the Middle Ages. In fact, the word holiday comes from the holy days that were part of the calendar in the Middle Ages. We're in history, so there's a little history lesson for you. Holiday comes from the holy days. So remember, the church was a part of everyday life on the Manor Estate. People celebrated many more holy days than we do today, with Sundays, saints' days, and other holidays. There were about 100 days each year when people did little work. Now that sounds kind of fun. On the holy days, the whole manor attended church, but there was usually more to these holy days than worship. The nightly tournaments you read about earlier, or that we kind of read about in King Arthur, often took place on holidays. People held parties in music and dancing. They took part in sports such as bowling and wrestling. They watched jugglers and magicians and listened to traveling troubadours and minstrels. These holidays gave people something to look forward to and lightened the load of serfdom. Okay, so that is it, guys. Kind of crazy, right? Really quick lesson. So let's, refresh the big question so we can get the big question fast. The big question was from this section right here. So the big question is, why does the author say that serfs live close to the land? So some key points is basically, where did the serfs live and work, right? Where do the serfs live and work? And that will give you some ideas. Okay, and then you can refer to pages 75 and 76 in your book. Yeah, it was fast. Short little lesson, right? Literature is kind of long. King Arthur was a long book, but you should be finishing King Arthur this week. But science and history shouldn't take too much of your schedule. Literacy and math should probably be the bulk of your schedule. So again, focusing on those two main subjects, and then these other subjects, and they should be a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit more enjoyable. So if you're having a hard time with literacy or math, maybe take a break and do one of these assignments. Kind of just, get in a different zone, and then you can get back to math literacy. Yeah, it was really fast. So I have a couple minutes before I got to get some more work done for the rest of this week to get you guys have all the material that you need to get all of your stuff done this week. So if you have any questions, let me know. The vocab is long incense. The vocab is long. I'm not for sure. I know what you're saying or asking, Chloe. The vocab should be pretty quick. And remember to use the vocabulary definitions from the book. All right. Don't Google the vocab words. All right. I know some students are doing that. You just won't get full credit. This will help you better understand. These are just a little bit more simpler, and they correspond more with what we're reading, right? I mean, if you Google the word, it will give you the correct definition, but it will be a little bit more complex. The vocab is long in science. Gotcha. Yep. Is that what you're saying? The vocab is long in science? Yeah, use the back of your book with science, right? Your science has the glossary. Use that, and that will help you kind of bust through it a little bit quicker. And you should probably do that at the beginning, so that as we read the different sections, the vocabulary words you already know the definitions, and so what we're reading is making more sense. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. And again, like I was saying, most of your work should be in math and literacy. Like if you were to pull up our homework page, right? Let me pull it up over here really quick. History has a little bit. Literature, it's just kind of long. It's about an hour of reading. But then sciences should be quick, and each of these lessons should be pretty quick. Like we saw, this lesson was only about 15 minutes. Nice, you did the vocab and science, well done. And so you guys have some tests today in literacy and math, and I know these are a little bit more time consuming, and so these other subjects shouldn't take as long. Okay, any questions? You guys enjoying the snow day? No, yeah, you guys are crushing it. You guys are, I'd say the majority of the class is doing a lot better this quarter than last quarter. Being on top of things, getting assignments in, it's been really awesome. I hope the weekly due dates have not been scary, but have been helpful to stay on track. No questions? No, ma'am? No questions, ma'am? Okay, well, it was awesome to have you guys in here. Thanks for coming in, Josh, Scotland, Chloe, Ella, Mason came in for a little bit. It was really awesome to have you guys here. Yeah, the snow is awesome. I love the snow. Did I miss anybody else that joined here? Mason, Ella, Josh, Chloe, Scotland. Yeah, you guys are awesome for coming in. Thank you. Yep, have a good rest of the day. Stay warm and cozy. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh, you got a new puppy? That's awesome. Scotland. Dogs are cool. What kind of puppy is it, Scotland? See you, Josh. Take care. Yeah, the puppy's cute. I bet. I think there's very few breeds of dogs that kind of have a that have not a very cute puppy. You don't know yet? It's all good. I would say the majority of dogs when they're puppies are very cute. Okay. Well, I need to get going because I got to do a couple more lessons for this week and get them up. But it was awesome to have a live lesson with you all. If you have questions, reach out to me in Canvas or jump in the conference call on Thursday and I can help you guys out. His name's Ozzy. Oh, you lost your dog, Chloe? Oh, it's terrible. That's so sad. Oh no. I'm so sorry. I mean, it looks like Ozzy, Scotland. Ozzy? Looks like Ozzy, but or is it? He's like a newborn puppy. That's awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, I gotta get going. Gotta record some more lessons. But I'm sorry, Chloe, that you lost your dog. That's so sad. Awesome that you got a new puppy, Scotland. Thank you all for coming in. Yep. Okay. Oh, Ella, one of your dogs got hit. Oh, guys, no more sad dog stories. I have my own sad dog stories. They're terrible. It makes me sad. Can almost even bring up some tears thinking about it. And then Scotland's coming in with how fun and playful his dog is. Okay. All right, I do gotta go. Let's end on a good note. You guys are awesome. Sorry that you guys had some sad dog stories. I'm so sorry, but you guys are doing awesome with school, and I will see you guys later. Okay. Have a great week. See ya.